હાય હેલો સો હું એક લિસ્ટ બનાવું છું આજે કે હું કઈ કઈ રેસિપીઝ આગળ બતાડીશ. ઠીક છે, અને હું એને શેડ્યુલ કરું છું. તો હું આને અહીંયા ફિક્સ કરી દઉં. તો જો હું હવે ગરમી આવે છે એટલે બતાડીશ ગુલકંદ ખીરની, દૂધી ખીર, બેલ શરબત, ફ્રૂટી બનાવતા શીખવાડીશ, આમ પન્ના પણ, મગ, છોલે ભટુરે, ઇન્સ્ટન્ટ ઇડલી વિથ સાંભાર, કીવી સાગો ખીર, પછી ગોત્રીજના લાડવા શીખવાડીશ જે અમારા કુળદેવીના હોય છે, પછી ફાફડા, પાટલી પર આપણે આમ કરીએ ને ફાફડા શીખવાડીશ, ફાડા ખીચડી, ઇન્સ્ટન્ટ પુલાવ, પછી કાળા પ્રસાદ, વ્હીટ ફ્લોર ઉત્તપમ જેમાં કાચા કેળાનું પાછળ તમારે સ્ટફિંગ લગાડવાનું, પાસ્તા બતાડીશ વિથ ધુંગાર, લૂઝ મોહનથાલ એન્ડ મોહનથાલ વિથ પીસીસ બોથ ટુગેધર, मूंग दाल शीरा, स्टफ्ड लच्छा पराठा, कराची बिस्किट, जैन ब्रेड, दूधी कोफ्ता. આમ એક લિસ્ટ બનાવ્યું છે. અને યસ, લો માટે બતાડવાનું છે હવે આગળ. આર્ટિફિશિયલ ઇન્ટેલિજન્સ પર એક ટોપિક, ગ્રેજ્યુટી, પેન્શન, મોટર એક્સિડન્ટ ક્લેમ્સ, પેટન્ટ, ટ્રેડમાર્ક, કોપીરાઇટ, ઇન્સ્યોરન્સ, રેરા એન્ડ એના ટોપિક રિલેટેડ ટુ ટેક્સેશન. ઠીક છે, તો ડોન્ટ મિસ ટુ watch my channel. Okay, chalo, so today's topic we shall begin with the rental settlement agreement. So see, today's topic is rental settlement agreement. આ ટોપિકમાં હું એક્સપ્લેન કરીશ રેન્ટલ સેટલમેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ, રેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ બેનો ડિફરન્સ, પછી રેન્ટ સેટલમેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ, લીઝ સેટલમેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટનો ડિફરન્સ, લીઝ અને લાયસન્સ એગ્રીમેન્ટનો ડિફરન્સ, પછી પ્રેક્ટિકલ એક્સપ્લેનેશન કરીશ કે આ બધા એગ્રીમેન્ટ્સ માટે કયા સ્ટેમ્પ પેપર લેવાના, ક્યાંથી લેવાના, ઈ સ્ટેમ્પિંગ શું છે, કયું ઓનલાઈન પોર્ટલ છે જ્યાં જઈને તમે તમારા આ બધા એગ્રીમેન્ટ્સનું રજિસ્ટ્રેશન કરાવી શકો, અને એ હું તમને બધું ડિટેલ્સમાં એક્સપ્લેન કરીશ આ વિડીયોમાં. ઓકે, તો રેન્ટલ સેટલમેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ ઇઝ અ લીગલ એન્ડ અ પ્રેક્ટિકલ ટૂલ that is used by both landlord and tenant to resolve their tenancy conflicts, the rental conflicts, and to settle the financial obligations and to close the tenancy with peaceful and legal secured exit is done with the rental settlement agreement. Okay, now see, with the that is the rental ecosystem is rapidly increasing in India because of the urban migration, co-living models, digital rent platforms and rising property values. આ વિડીયોમાં હું તમને ડિજિટલ રેન્ટ પ્લેટફોર્મ્સ કયા કયા છે બધું એક્સપ્લેન કરીશ. સો ધ કોન્ફ્લિક્ટ અરાઇઝ, સી the tenancy conflicts and rental conflicts arises at the beginning of the agreement regarding the security deposit, then regarding the property damages and repairs. At the time of the stay, the conflict arises regarding the pending rents and dues, and at time of vacating the property there are the disputes regarding the utility bills and refund of the deposits. And yeah, in many cases it happens that there is an early termination of the agreement. So the rental settlement agreement, it helps, it is a structured legal solution that is recognized by both landlord and tenant. They in which their final understanding is written in a agreement and it is drafted legally. So that when it is drafted and it is legally binding, then it can be produced in the court as a documentary evidence if in case any dispute arises. So the rental settlement agreement is respected by the court when it is legally binding and it is properly executed. It has to satisfy the contractual principles, that is the tenant and landlord both have signed it voluntarily and with freely, and all the terms and conditions are properly understood and written clearly. And the third thing is that there is no fraud, mispresentation, coercion, and there is the fourth is that there is a lawful consideration. So these are the basic things of the rental settlement agreement. And rental settlement agreement includes what? It includes the settlement of the pending rent and maintenance dues, adjustment or refund of security deposit, confirmation of the possession handover, and then it also there is a documentation of all the property damages and repairs done, and it also includes a no due, no claim declaration is also included in a rental settlement agreement. Now રેન્ટલ સેટલમેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ હોય કે રેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ હોય કે લીઝ સેટલમેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ હોય કે લાઇસન્સ એગ્રીમેન્ટ હોય, the use of stamp paper increases the enforceability and evidentiary value, and notarization adds authentication. And yes, you have to do the registration online. Online registration is encouraged a lot, and even the offline registration is mandatory. Though કે તમારું agreement 11 monthsની 11 monthsનું હોય કે it exceeds 11 month, હવે registration mandatory છે. Previously it was according to the local state laws and transaction value, but now the registration is mandatory for any time period, okay, because that gives a legal protection to both the parties, and that makes the agreement legally binding. Got it? Now see, the another thing I'll explain the difference between the rental settlement agreement and rent agreement. Rental settlement agreement is needed to resolve the dispute, and it is needed at the time of exit and for the closure of tenancy, for the financial closure and to release the financial claims, and it is valid until the completion of settlement agreement. Whereas the rent agreement, it establishes the tenancy terms, it talks about the rent and living conditions, and it is valid until the rental terms, and it grants the occupancy rights, and it is needed at the beginning of the stay. So rent agreement જે હોય છે that initiates the relationship, and rental settlement agreement it ends the relationship responsibly. So this is the difference between the rental settlement agreement and rent agreement. Now the difference between the rental settlement agreement and lease settlement agreement is that rental settlement agreement talks about the residential tenancy. It is very simple, and it is for the short term rentals, and શું કહેવાય કે it is based on the rent control laws, whereas the lease settlement agreement talks about the commercial or lease, it talks about the commercial or long term lease, and the lease settlement agreement is complex, and એમાં હોય છે મલ્ટી યર એગ્રીમેન્ટ્સ હોય, આની જેમ શોર્ટ ટર્મ રેન્ટલ્સ નથી હોતું, and the law that covers it is the property or the commercial laws. Okay, now see the lease settlement agreement je che, it involves the business liabilities and higher financial stakes. Now the difference between the lease and license agreement. Lease agreement માં એવું હોય છે કે the interest is transferred in the property, and there is exclusive possession, and it is like heritable, transferable, it is not revocable, it is revocable only via breach, and death does not terminate the lease agreement. Whereas license agreement, there is no interest transferred in the property, it is non-exclusive possession, it is not transferable, it is not heritable, and yes, it can be it is revocable anytime, and the last thing is that death terminates the license agreement. Now see, I'll explain you that the format of the rental settlement agreement શું હોય છે. There is the name of the parties, that is the landlord and tenant, then the address of the property, then there is the settlement details, that is the settlement amount, outstanding dues, mode of payment, date of payment, then there is the possession status કે they vacated છે કે શું છે, then it includes the security deposit details, that is it is adjusted, refunded, retained, then the final settlement clause, that is all dues are all claims are finally settled, then there is governing laws, that is કે state laws એમાં mentioned હોય છે, અને signatures of the landlord, tenant and witnesses, આમાં પણ બે witnessesની સાઇન જોઈએ છે. Okay, now see the practical tips that the landlord and tenant જે when you prepare a rental settlement agreement, it gives a clear picture to the landlord about the property condition and the amount, the money that he is going to get, and tenant gets a protection against the future financial claims, and court gets a proper documentary evidence when if there is any dispute. Now the practical tip for the landlord before signing the rental settlement agreement is that he has to do a proper inspection of the property. Second, he has to hand over he has to issue a written possession receipt. Then he has to photograph all the damages as the evidence, and if he is getting the repairing done, he has to keep all the receipt of the repairing. And the practical tip for the tenant is that he has to pay all the utility bills before vacating the property and ask for a no due no claim certificate, written certificate from the landlord. And he also has to keep the receipt of all the payments and ensure that the deposit deductions are documented. Now see, I'll be telling you that આ બધા જે એગ્રીમેન્ટ્સ છે જે I explained in the video of my will કે નોન જ્યુડિશિયલ સ્ટેમ્પ પેપર શેમાં યુઝ થાય, જ્યુડિશિયલ સ્ટેમ્પ પેપર શેમાં યુઝ થાય. તો these agreements, property agreements, rent agreements, પાવર ઓફ એટર્ની હોય કે લીગલ કોઈ બી ટ્રાન્ઝેક્શન છે જે કોર્ટની બહાર થાય, you have to use a non-judicial stamp paper. So for the residential rent agreements, you always have to use a non-judicial, you have to pay a non-judicial stamp duty. So the non-judicial stamp paper is paying of the non-judicial stamp duty is mandatory in all the states, but now e-stamping is preferred in many states. Now see, rupees 100 or 200 rupee non-judicial stamp paper is used for such agreements like rent agreements, but not always. That like in Gujarat, the stamp duty, non-judicial stamp duty depends on the annual rent, duration, location. એવી રીતે non-judicial stamp duty decide થાય છે. That is around 500 rupees તો હોય જ છે, rupees 500 for that you have to pay as a non-judicial stamp duty. So if you in case you are using a 100 rupees stamp paper, then you have to use it within 6 months. Actually there is no expiry date, but it is preferable if you use it within 6 months or within that current year. Now see, like for the residential rent agreements, you have to pay non-judicial stamp duty, that I told you how, based on the annual rent, location and duration. Then the second thing is that like most of the states do prefer e-stamping. So from where do you get the e-stamp papers? You get it from the authorized vendor, from the sub-registrar's office, or from the online portal like SHCIL. That SHCIL is an online portal that helps you in e-stamping, e-code fees, e-registration, demat and trading account opening. Now see, you get the authorized stamp paper from the licensed stamp vendors. Like in Vadodara, you get it from the Shivani Stamps, Products, Shah Stamp vendors. And many advocates also do these e-stamping services. And e-stamp સેવા કેન્દ્ર પણ હોય છે, વડોદરામાં છે. So there you get these e-stamp services. Okay, like common service centers are authorized to provide e-stamp papers. Then at the local courts, there is a authorized person who is located to issue the stamp papers. And yes, there is authorized banks like Bank of Baroda provides e-stamping services for the non-judicial stamp duty. So this is what I wanted to let you know. Now see, the registration of these agreements, rent agreements, પહેલાં એવું હતું કે 11 મહિનાનું હોય તો તમારે રજિસ્ટ્રેશન નહીં કરાવવાનું, પણ હવે શું થયું છે કે 11 મહિનાનું હોય કે 11 મહિના ઉપરનું હોય, 12 મહિનાનું, 3 વર્ષનું, જેનું બી હોય, you have to get it registered. If it is written, go to the sub registrar's office, that is વડોદરામાં થાય, કુબેર ભુવનમાં. And if you are doing it online, then there is Garvi Gujarat portal. ત્યાં જઈને તમારે તમારું rent agreement registration કરાવવાનું. Now it is compulsory. Then the second thing is that there are digital rent platforms that provide you brokerage free property searches with secure payments management, and it reduces the paperwork. Like there is Magic Bricks, Housing.com, No Broker. Then the key apps like Rent-OK and Cred, they enable the online digital rent collection. And City Furnish and Rento Mojo provides you furniture rentals. Okay, now see, this is what all details that I provided you regarding. Now see, when you get your rental settlement agreement hoy ke rent agreement hoy, when you get it registered, that helps you, that is a like once it is signed, it is a proof that no dues and no obligations are all dues and all obligations are settled. Okay, and this it means that બેમાંથી કોઈ party cannot ask for the additional money and cannot initiate. Now see, once it is these agreements are signed by both the parties, there is a proof. It is a proof that no dues and it is a proof that all dues and all obligations are settled, and none of the party can ask for the additional money in future and cannot initiate any financial future claims. So this is what I wanted to inform you regarding the rental settlement agreement. Now we shall be discussing something regarding rent agreements. Now see, rent agreements માં હવે rules change થઈ ગયા છે. The landlord can ask just for as a security deposit. પહેલા કેવું હતું કે 2 વર્ષનું પણ સિક્યોરિટી ડિપોઝિટ લેન્ડલોર્ડ્સ લઈ લેતા હતા, જેમ કે હોય છે 2 લાખ હોય કે એટલા અમાઉન્ટ પણ લઈ લેતા હતા. પણ હવે બધું ચેન્જ થયું છે. ઇફ ઇટ ઇઝ અ house rent, then he can ask just for 2 months advance as a security deposit, and if it is a commercial property, then he can ask just for the 6 months advance as a security deposit. Now the rules have changed regarding that ke in the the home rental laws 2025, according to that the landlord એક જ વર્ષમાં એક જ વાર રેન્ટ વધારી શકે. અને સેકન્ડ છે કે એ પણ 3 મંથ્સની રિટર્ન નોટિસ દીધા પછી. એન્ડ ધ થર્ડ થિંગ ઇઝ દેટ કે અગર 5,000 ઉપર તમે રેન્ટ પે કરો છો, then you have to pay it online, that is through the GPay or Paytm. Then you have to use that online transaction has to be done when you are paying a rent that is above 5,000. અને અગર 50,000 above રેન્ટ છે તો then the landlord જ્યારે આ ઓનલાઈન ટ્રાન્ઝેક્શન હોય એટલે કે શું બધું રેકોર્ડ થઈ ગયું, અને 50,000 અબવ રેન્ટ હોય ને ત્યારે તો એ પેમેન્ટ 50,000 અબવ રેન્ટ હોય છે તો દેટ ઇઝ ઓનલાઈન પેમેન્ટ હેઝ ટુ બી ડન. એન્ડ TDS રૂલ્સ એમાં લેન્ડલોર્ડને લાગુ પડશે, દેટ ઇઝ અંડર સેક્શન 198 IB. And now see, as I told you that the registration is mandatory for both the 11 months contract and above that is under the Registration Act 1908. Okay, now and the non-judicial stamp duty payment is also mandatory for all these agreements that are taking place outside the court. Now another thing is that the change that has taken place in the home rental laws according to 2025 is that the contracts have to be registered, whether it maybe the online registration is encouraged a lot, but the written and agreements also have to get registered, rent agreements, and within 2 months. And if it is online, it has to be digitally stamped, e-sign હોવું જોઈએ. Now suppose if you are not getting it done within 2 months, then there is a fine of rupees 5,000. And suppose the tenant has not paid the rent for 3 months, then the landlord can go to the special rent tribunal court, જ્યાં આ કેસ within 2 months સુલઝાવવામાં આવશે, that is within 60 days. Now for the registration you have to go to your state's property registration website, like for Gujarat it is Garvi Gujarat portal. Then you have to provide both the parties have to provide the Aadhaar and other ID proofs જે એ લોકો માંગે, અને વિટનેસીસનું પણ એમાં જોશે ID proof. Then you have to mention all the clauses regarding the security deposit, rent, period, increase clause, એ બધું સાઇન થઈ જાય એની ઉપર, અને પછી તમારું રેન્ટ એગ્રીમેન્ટ રેડી થઈ જાય છે. So these are the changes that has taken place for the home rental laws 2025. Now see, the e-stamping center in Vadodara is one of the centers that I know in Vadodara is in Diwalipura in Jai Nidhi Flats. And online portals like e-Sahayak and TaxSite, that online portals like e-Sahayak and TaxSite, they provide authorized e-stamp. So I hope you got the today's topic regarding the rental settlement agreement, the home rental laws that I told you, home rental laws 2025 જે મેં હમણાં કીધા તમને, and lease agreement, license agreement, આ બધાનો ડિફરન્સ કીધો. અને આ બધા એગ્રીમેન્ટ માટે નોન જ્યુડિશિયલ સ્ટેમ્પ પેપર યુઝ કરવાનું હોય, દેટ ઇઝ બેઝડ ઓન ધ લોકલ સ્ટેટ લોઝ based on the annual rent, duration, and locality of your property. Okay, so I hope you got and yes, yeah, now see there is digital rental settlement agreement also in metro cities. They are used, so there the it is signed, document is signed electronically, so you have to use verified digital signatures, maintain the scanned copies, and store these documents electronically. E-stamping શું હોય છે? E-stamping is electronic stamping, that is a computerized based method જેનાથી તમે નોન જ્યુડિશિયલ સ્ટેમ્પ ડ્યુટી પે કરો ગવર્નમેન્ટને instead of that using the traditional physical stamp papers. And e-stamping is more safe and secure because it provides you a UIN, that is a unique identification number, જેનાથી શું થાય છે? તમે ઓનલાઈન પેમેન્ટ કરો and there is a generation of certificate. There is very less chance of fraud and forgery in e-stamping. Okay, see, I try to provide you all useful informations, so please do like, share and subscribe my channel. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel.